Welcome back to Fintech Live, where we've just come off the stage with Suresh Samuel, who is the the Deputy Chief Investment Officer of Lendable. How are you, Suresh, today?
Doing well, thanks. It's great to be here.
Perfect. Could you begin just by telling our audience just very briefly what is Lendable and what do you do?
Sure. So I'm the Deputy Chief Investment Officer for Lendable. We provide debt to fintechs explicitly in emerging markets. So we work in Africa, Southeast Asia, and Latin America. We do this for a couple of reasons. One is we fundamentally believe and are driven by the mission of increasing financial access to underserved populations in emerging markets. We think fintech is a really scalable, efficient way to do this. And we also just believe in the commercial prospect of fintech for emerging markets and helping companies grow, scale, and build profitable businesses.
Okay, perfect. And in terms of trends in those emerging markets, like related to fintech, of course, what trends have you been seeing, and what do you think that it's an indication of, if anything?
Yeah, so I guess from a trend perspective, we can think about this in a couple ways. One is looking over the last couple of years, really going back to the kind of early days of the pandemic. We saw emerging markets really benefit from a shift to digitization and financial services. So while digital payment flows and remittances actually decreased during COVID, they increased in our markets. And this is just more people were stuck at home, so they had to transact digitally. But in the kind of shorter, history, we're seeing some of these kind of looming recession headwinds start to hit our markets. And so this is both from a macro perspective, where currencies are more volatile, countries are struggling a bit more, and that impacts both our borrowers and customers to kind of induced stress on customer repayments. That said, the shocks to the system, kind of what I just talked about in my presentation, the shocks to the system are less acute than COVID. And what we feel are pretty manageable for the strong fintechs who have good unit economics, have sufficient runway at hand, and are kind of on their way to building businesses, and they'll be able to leverage that into using this as an opportunity to really build their business further.
Okay, and also a question that I actually had on my mind was there's been a lot of talk in say especially the past 5 or 10 years about kind of the focus of market importance shifting from say Western markets to more kind of like APAC regions and Africa, Asia. In terms of the kind of analysis that you're seeing, do you think that there's any truth to that? And do you think that that those other markets, let's say, or upcoming emerging markets will become like primary forces in terms of transactions and economics in the future?
So I don't think we're necessarily going to see emerging markets overtaking the US or Europe. I think when you talk about it from just overall GDP level, opportunity set level, the developed markets are just too large. So they're huge markets with a lot of revenue opportunity. That said, we are seeing a shift of opportunity to these developing markets. And I think you see this in a few ways. So I think from kind of overall moving people from unbanked or getting low or no access to financial services to those who are active everyday customers, we're seeing that progression kind of quite large in a number of markets. I guess, and a couple examples of this, in Brazil, the central bank rolled out a digital payment system called Pix. Within 2 years, it's actually gone from no transactions to now being transacted as much as cash. Within 18 months of its launch, 2/3 of adults were using it. So it's really fast trends of digitization. Kenya was one of the first kind of users at a large scale of mobile money. It was rolled out. There was a program called M-Pesa, which was rolled out in 2007, which is a digital wallet. Today, over 95% of adults use mobile wallets. And so we see, in some ways, an ability to leapfrog legacy. Nobody's writing checks in these markets, as well as just a lot of opportunity. The final point here is the markets that I really think about, because that's where I work, is Africa, Southeast Asia, and Latin America. The population there is over 2 billion people, so it's 25% of the global population. 50% of people, generally, it's going to vary country by country, but 50% are either underbanked or unbanked. And so this is just a huge opportunity for and companies to come in with new innovative solutions to reach this. And that's what we're wanting to participate in. And we think it's going to be a huge trend and in the near term, long term.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. And how have you enjoyed FinTech Live this time around? Did you have a good time?
Yeah, it's been great. There's quite a diversity of people here. So, originally thinking about it, my world, we're here in London, and my world is, well, I'm based here. It's really focused on emerging market. Wasn't sure what the crowd would be like, but I've had a lot of really interesting conversations about what's happening here in the UK, more locally in Europe, but also those who are working or looking at emerging markets as well. So I think from the diversity of the turnout, it's been quite interesting.
Perfect. Thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Great. Thanks for having me.
And thank you as well. And yeah, that's all we've got time for. And yeah, thank you for watching.